Hey there, and welcome to this week's Men Aloud. I hope you're well, hope you had a great week, and I hope you were enjoying all the previous episodes of Men Aloud. My name is Dave Sheahan, high performance consultant, and dedicated for over 25 years to educating, motivating, and inspiring, hopefully inspiring people just like you to be the best you that you can be and lead the best life you can and have the best life experience you can have as well. I'm very excited this week that we have a special guest, Karen Ashley, who has had an incredible journey in his own life. He's encountered some very, very dark times. He's climbed out of them. He's had many successes as well as the dark times, which is the journey that is a journey you learn from, a journey of discovery, and a journey that you can grow so much from as an individual and positively impact other people if you allow yourself to. And you don't hide behind excuses or blame games or pity parties. So he's going to be sharing a lot about his journey. He's got great tips to share. He's going to be talking about men's mental health. Remember, Men Aloud is all about giving you guys a platform as men to communicate better, to share better emotionally, and to shake off a bit of this alpha male tag that it's the stigma that's there about men when we're all just human and we all have emotions, and it's important we express them at the right times as well. So looking forward to having Carol on. So if you ever have any questions or anything, or if you ever want to come on the show, make sure you get in touch, contact the station themselves, contact me directly. We're here to help you as much as we possibly can, but we can only do that if you reach out to us. Okay, so I want to kick on. Let's introduce Carol Ashley, founder of Menscape and involved in many other things, a published author. He's done many things that are having such a positive impact on people, around the world, many different countries. And want to welcome Carol to the show. Guys, so as I said a little earlier, I'm delighted to have our special guest today, Carol Ashley. So Carol, how are we doing? Welcome to Men Aloud.
Morning, Dave.
Great to have you here, and I know you're going to share a lot of great wisdom and a great experiences and everything here that will help our listeners. As we've always stressed, Men Aloud is a platform for men to become better communicators, share emotions, try to shake off a bit of this alpha male stigma that we are meant to live with. And remember, we are literally just humans. And the big thing is that men are going to have loads of issues in terms of life and the way we live and society and societal conditioning. The last 18 months of stress in every show has had a huge impact on everybody,
Sure.
and especially when men are having to counteract, obviously, this kind of alpha male type image they're having to constantly show. Like for you, Ashley, like in general, and especially last 18 months, like what do you see as the biggest issues that have grown for men in particular?
Well, I think the need for connection, sharing information, sharing ideas, and with kind of government regulations imposing restrictions on people, typically where people would meet, so places like church or the pub, or socially places where people could gather. For me personally, it would be more the gym and the swim, where I'd go to take time to physically look after myself and mentally look after myself through exercise and routine. So with a lot of that removed, where do people go? How do people communicate? And probably like yourself, I'd never heard of Zoom 18 months ago. It's now a bit like Google. It's gone from being a noun to a verb. Are you Zooming today, or are you Zooming, And a lot of our connection and need for connection is done through these online platforms, which is good in the sense that it's better than nothing, but you don't get the same feel for how you would if you're in a room with someone where you're picking up on a more holistic sort of 360-degree view, incorporating body language, energy, vibes, who else is in the room, and this kind of stuff. So
like banter, like you said, even with swimming and so on, like the change room banter in the sauna, the steam room, that bit of banter. And when a couple start speaking, then the ones who are a little bit more, quieter, typically going to get engaged, or the people who are talking and very out there, very much bring them in. So that's what you can't replicate that online as much.
no, and being a massive Man City supporter, I used to get tons of abuse from all the Liverpool and Man United supporting Irish, and now poor me, I hardly get any abuse for my team being the champions.
It was 4 out of the last 5 years, isn't it? So you're having a good time.
Well, they were saying, it was a shame we didn't turn up in the final of the Champions League there. But on the face of it, if you won the league and you won the League Cup and you got to the semi-final of the FA Cup and you got to the final of the European Cup, that's not too shabby, Dave.
Exactly. It's a decent season. It was a pity. I was actually rooting for you in the final. It was a pity that he didn't like that show up. But at the end of the day, Chelsea's tactics as well were what I expected them to be, you know. So
What was a shame was on 76 minutes, we actually had the team out to win the game, but there was only 10, 15 minutes left in which to do it. You brought Fernandinho on, Aguero on. Fancy having Jesus in your team and not playing him, like, you know. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful tool. We have a brilliant manager and the fans love him, but he does drop a ball every now and again and he makes mistakes. He's human. Like you're saying, we're all human. We have that need. We make mistakes. And Guardiola's no different. He chose the wrong team, you know, and we paid the consequences. But
like that fairness to him, like he makes big decisions that most managers would be afraid to. And like that, yeah, sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. They don't work spectacularly, like in the final and a couple of other occasions. But at the end of the day, he's an incredible manager, and what he's done is unbelievable. Because as well, what I see is when you're dealing with such egos and the money and all that side of things, you have to be a hell of a manager to be able to manage that. Like that's a difficult skill. Where look with the 80s and stuff, they didn't have that same challenge. So I think that's a hard one.
He's revolutionized English football. I was chatting to a company I work with. We have a business partner in the UK, and one of the gents, the CEO, is in Norwich, and he manages a kids, should we say, under nines football team, and they play out from the back. Like they literally, the keeper gets it and passes it. Guardiola has revolutionized English football from the national team down to the lower leagues, down to the kids leagues. They're all playing out from the back. Typical English football was like, give it a hoof, pick up the pieces, you know, drive it on. And you can still do that. But for the purists, like some matches I just can't watch. When you grow up on a diet of attacking wing play, you know, and playing it out and playing through teams, it's easy on the eye. It's easy to fall in love with that. You know?
Like there's very few teams now who play the old-fashioned way, the old-fashioned English way. It is very much like that goalies, and even pundits are constantly giving goalies abuse with doing their passing and playing out from the back. But that's the philosophy most teams have adopted now, which comes from when he was at Barcelona and the incredible football they played.
The Cruyff philosophy, man.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. For the viewer, it's the best thing ever, you know. But it's like with that, like if you take in the football and like again for the banter, like you've said about the swimming and the change rooms and the sauna, same with football. Like football, like any sport, whatever sport people are into, it really unifies people and unifies strangers and creates conversations. And yeah, people can talk about stuff on Zoom or in WhatsApp groups and things like this. And
thank you. Yeah.
There's nothing like being, you know, in a room or like in school. Like we think of school even and the banter you'd have with all the different types of fans and stuff. Or like that if you're in the gym or any kind of meeting, football or sport is always a hot topic. And for that to be like wiped out is definitely had a huge impact on people.
So hopefully things will open up and we can start going back to some kind of common sense in society where people can meet and congregate and satisfy that need for human connection. I think you picked up on an interesting thing talking about men. Like men and women are obviously, you know, we're all the same. We've got needs and wants and desires, but seemingly there's a crucial difference between men and women, more along the lines of the men are from Mars, women are from Venus type thing, where women talk. They can be in a room together for 5 minutes and they're already talking about issues like the thyroid and stuff. Like I wouldn't go to a pub and be talking about my prostate with anyone I haven't met. I mean, women, they click into this way of being able to communicate with one another through this kind of feminine energy that we're all in this together, and they're all part of some sort of subgroup that they default into opening up with. And so for guys, I think we have to almost overcome this hurdle of, is it as simple as just saying getting over yourself? But, you know, to be able to talk, to be able to communicate, to be authentic is absolutely crucial. And in the modern era, with the lockdown and the impositions that we're seeing on our freedoms, it's more and more important to step into authenticity and to connect with other like-minded people in order that you feel that you're in an environment where you belong, you know?
I think, yeah, there's never been more important time to connect with like-minded people. So you can go back to the football, you know, doesn't matter who the hell you are, where you live in the world, even if you don't speak the same language, you can connect again in that unified thing of, let's say if it is football or if someone's into baseball or tennis or whatever. Like I remember even at France 98, where I spent 2 weeks going around the World Cup to different cities in France. And I remember one particular match, Argentina-Croatia, where I hung out for 4 or 5 hours before the match with a bunch of Argentinians. They spoke no English. I spoke no Spanish. Okay. So that's the thing like that. And that's the thing, like you said, body language, even I suppose an element of telepathy, stuff like that. And we need, again, to be in presence of other people to be able to do that. You can only do so, like Zoom and all these things are great, phones are great. And if you think it's only 20, 25 years since mobile phones and all were there. If I was meeting you, we set a place, we were meeting there. If I didn't show up after 5 minutes, you went home, that was it. We went to pay phones to call people, stuff like that. I remember working in Luxembourg and going to pay phone once a week to call my parents and writing letters. It's only 20, 25 years ago. So things have changed so much, but you can't beat that, in presence human connection.
There's one word of Argentinian that I've learned over the years that stands me in good stead in any social situation, and that is, of course, Aguero.
That'll definitely help, yeah. Aguero or Messi.
I play chess with people all over the world, and every now and again I'll be playing against an Argentinian. So I just, in the chat box, I just put Aguero. He's loved everywhere. He's an absolute legend, a very humble man as well.
Well, you can see that from even like Guardiola broke down even in the interview on Sky Sports when he was asked about Aguero. So that said everything. Just the fact he broke down in an interview and he couldn't speak highly. He wasn't even able to say that much about him, but from the few words he said, the respect he had from not just a footballer, more so as a person. And that was great insight into who Aguero is.
Yeah.
Because again, it's lost in football and sport in general because of so much money. The person has lost a lot of time. Plus, obviously, the media put a terrible public image on so many. But for a lot of them, of course, like the ego takes over and they kind of lose that humbleness. But for certain ones, the humbleness stays.
I think what's interesting as well, and what's worthy to note, is a lot of men typically, if we're going to make general sweeping statements, that obviously there are exceptions too. If men are generally find it difficult to express their feelings and talk openly and be emotional, whether it's in public or what have you, then sports, whether it's hurling in your GAA, whether it's rugby, whether it's what I call football, what you call soccer over here, any kind of men have been known to channel their emotions through sports. So like that Aguero moment in 2012, grown men were just openly weeping on the streets of Manchester because for 40 years, and you saw this huge outpouring of emotion, and I think, obviously some women can do that too, but for men, there's a large role of their emotions being expressed through sports as well.
Like I can relate, like the Aguero moment. Like I'm a Liverpool fan, and just the fact that they won, the way they won, the fact that they pipped United, that was amazing. Like for me, from many levels. And I could tie in with the emotion. Obviously not the same as a City fan, especially a lifelong City fan. But it was even like, say, the Champions League for Liverpool 2019 when they won that one against Spurs. Like I had gone through a couple of years where I had a huge amount of terrible challenges and dark times and so on. And I'm fairly in touch with myself and emotions and so on. I communicate pretty well, but I'll never forget when Origi scored the second goal, the outpouring of emotion was insane. Like I have some videos of it. When I look at them sometimes, I actually cringe because it was just so obvious. The outpouring was insane. And as you said, that's what we as men typically do. We channel through sport. So if you think of being in any sporting occasion, being in the stadium, the build up, the actual match, the moments, the outpouring of emotion, the energy within these environments is something incredible.
Yeah.
And we need to express ourselves more. Like what, in terms of like advice to people, obviously just think of being more authentic, bloody open up and just speak and so on. But, taking into account that most men have grown up in an environment where their dad possibly was like an alpha male, which I would have kind of had. Emotions weren't expressed. Like I don't think even I've ever had a hug off my dad until in recent years, because that just is how they grew up. They weren't meant to show emotion that way. So when you take a lot of the population are still like that, and even our generation, a lot of population is like that too. What kind of little tips, what kind of advice would you give for people to start opening up, or to guys to open up?
Dr. Gabor Mate, the Hungarian, I suppose he's Canadian now since he lives in Canada, is very well respected, does online lectures, travels around the world, writes books. I'd encourage anyone to check the Gabor material. And if you're in a local group of some kind, any opportunity where you can share your feelings, share your thoughts, allow yourself to feel whatever emotions are coming up, Myself, I regularly have a meditation practice where I do chanting, sitting with what comes up. So, some days it can be easy, some days it can be difficult. Some days I might not want to do it and I do it. Some days I want to do it and I do it. And it's that regular practice of allowing things to come up. So the nature of the mind is that it wanders and that you have ideas which are generated, and that's okay. So you allow those thoughts to come up. You could be thinking about what you had for your breakfast this morning, or somebody you've not seen from primary school that you knew 40 years ago. Or what you're going to do next week, or a business plan or something. Anything can come up, and if you just return to the breath, focus on the breathing, take your time, regulate yourself, and find that if you can cut out all that chatter and that noise and just sit with what comes up, what will come up is thoughts, and those thoughts create emotions, those emotions create feelings, and you just allow yourself to feel them rather than the need or the urge through the conditioning to repress them or to not allow them to manifest. Because we're all living in an age where there's this addiction to distraction, whether it's mobile phones, whether it's television, whatever it can be. We can all distract ourselves with something. But if you just sit and read or sit and meditate, I would say that would help in huge ways towards being able to more embrace your feelings and emotions. And like that, a lot of us have trauma that we've bottled up and kept within the body from childhood onwards. So if you don't allow it to become expressed, it becomes repressed and depressed. And hence, a lot of people are having mental health issues, suffering from anxiety, suffering from depression. A lot of it is linked, as Gabor explains, to childhood trauma and issues in childhood.
Yeah, totally. And just on the Gabor Mate thing, like for people to be aware, it's like a movie and series of interviews and trainings coming up on, I think it's 8th to the 14th of June. So check that out anywhere online. Also, Carl, I know you're under a bit of time pressure today, so I really appreciate you coming on. But you've taken action and you're doing your bit to help men with your Menscape group. So tell people more about that. What made you set it up? What was your motivation? Tell them about Menscape. Like, I'm delighted to be part of it. It's a great group, guys. One to definitely check out.
Yeah, it's good to have positive and proactive members like yourself, Dave. Going back to February 2020, so I'd say more or less the bones of 16 months ago now, I thought it'd be a good idea to create an environment where men can come together, either share ideas, share information, or just chat in the format of like a digital pub. So since the lockdown, since the impositions and restrictions, and since we don't really have a place where we can meet and share ideas, we've got a virtual fortnightly Zoom call and then a WhatsApp group where the guys are welcome to join as they wish to do so. There's no pressure to come forward to speak up or what have you. And I had the idea largely because I'd been through the death of my father, marriage separation, so kind of bereavement, and then marriage breakdown, separation. All of this left me dealing with a lot of grief. So through my own meditation practice, through my own sort of healing journey, I went from being, shall we say, a pint swilling, spliff smoking, jukebox playing, pool sharking young Manchester lad with a twinkle in his eye for the ladies, to being a guy who meditates, collects crystals, and speaks publicly about men's mental health awareness. I've kind of been on a bit of a journey. I'm not quite sure how it happened, but it did. But my heart was broken open. I remember crying for literally 6, 7, 8 weeks on end. I couldn't stop crying. I was crying at lunch. I was crying on phone calls. I was crying in between work. I was crying between emails. I was crying in the evening. I couldn't stop crying. And it was this huge outpouring of grief from 30 years of repressed emotions. So I said, what it might do is help to create this online group. It started out as a support group, but it's more of a peer group. And it's aimed at guys that have been through separation, divorce, bereavement, and found themselves on their own. I was with a woman for 22 years and we had 4 kids. And then I woke up one morning in an apartment in Limerick on my own, abandoned, isolated, and rejected by the very family that I created. And I'm like, well, I can either go in the corner and cry and roll up into a ball, or I can stand up and I can feel what I'm feeling and move on, process it, poop it out, and move forward and move through it and carry on. So I'm kind of bringing my own experiences to the table. But for a lot of guys out there, it's a nice platform to be able to connect and to chat. And we share information from, I suppose, a wide range of topics, including physical health, well-being, personal development. And the group attracts gents who are committed to being the best version of themselves that they can be. You know, it's not about trying to impress someone else. It's about trying to impress yourself. It's not about getting approval from others. It's about getting your own approval. And once you step into that energy and that vibration of self-love, self-care, self-respect, and self-esteem, I find there's no going back. You can constantly get triggered through self-sabotaging techniques. But if you come back, a bit like a meditation practice, to the breath, your mind gets distracted, you come back to the breath. You get distracted, you keep coming home to yourself and who you are and your being as a man. You stand in your power as a divine being, a sovereign being, and your connection with the divine. A man's energy is about leadership and drive and protection, security. And a lot of that has been diluted through society, through Hollywood, through the music industry. And you've got images of toxic masculinity, and you've got images like Peppa Pig. My kids used to watch Peppa Pig. He's like this fat, lazy guy that's mocked by the children and the mother. What example is that teaching in the family dynamic in society? You might think, come on, you're taking it a bit serious now. But it was just one of several ways in which masculinity has been dragged down into the sewers and into the gutters. Or, you know, there's this kind of extreme. It's either toxic masculinity, which obviously exists. There are men that don't acknowledge their feelings, emotions. They do disrespect women, and they are a threat to decent people. All the way down to like this lazy, useless, unintelligent guy that needs everything done from him, and everything in between. So if you're in the middle, if you're in the balance, if you're standing in your divine energy of being, you know, half man and half woman, or half X chromosomes, half Y chromosomes, which is, let's face it, what we were born with, what harm can that do? You know?
Exactly.
Sorry, I went on a bit of a rant there.
It's important. It's some super important points there, because that's the thing. Like, societal conditioning is morphing completely in what man is meant to be and what is being put out there, whether it be cartoons, Hollywood, magazines, media, whatever. Like, and there's such extremes from one side to the other bloody side of what a man is. Like, it's completely changing and not for the good. And, you know, it's like then with the Menscape group, like, this is like, goes back to what you said a while ago about like-minded people and supportive people. That's what the students attract them, is people from different countries and different parts of Ireland and UK, and it's fantastic. And like, you know, guys, you know, watching this, whether you join Menscape, whether you go into other similar groups, set up similar groups, it's important that we can, you know, we help each other by combining with like-minded people and supporting each other. Like, there's never been a more important time, especially when, again, society is like it's trying to implode itself or something. And, you know, on a global basis, it's pretty crazy some of the shit that's going on right now. So we have to connect with like-minded people. We have to support each other. And like, Carl is doing amazing things with Menscape, plus all the other things he does. There's a lot of great stuff. And like, just have to applaud you, Carl, and setting up the Menscape. And, you know, your own journey led to that. And again, that's like a big purpose of that journey that has led to that. And then think of the people who it's made an impact on. Think of some of the comments that some of the guys on the group have said on the live calls or in the messages. Like, you know, it's been great seeing that and being part of it. And just, you know, deserve
I think that the path that I've been on, in 2016, I published my first book about doing, taking up a mindfulness practice, doing cold turkey. I'd been smoking for 25 years, drinking for 30 years, or vice versa, smoking for 30 years, drinking for 20, whatever it was. I had these unhealthy behavior patterns, and a lot of it was born out of these kind of defense mechanisms you create as a youngster, you know. And I looked at my behavior and I changed it, and a lot of stuff came up for me. And I wrote The Fox and the Scorpion Meets Cold Turkey with the intention that if it helps one single person from throwing themselves off a bridge that was dealing with depression or was dealing with low self-esteem, and wasn't feeling that energetic vibration of their divine connection, then my work will have been done. And I kind of published another couple of books since, but the general theme would be very much that there's life after separation, divorce, there's life after grief, there's life after bereavement, and you have to step into that being the best version of yourself, whatever it takes, simply because life is for living. I meditate with Buddhist monks. I have done for the last 10 years. I go to the Buddhist center in East Clare, and loads of time for people that sit on the cushion. But for me, you have to get out there, you have to live life. And a lot of this stay home and stay safe is repressing that natural desire of a man to go out there, to forage, and to provide for either yourself or your loved ones, or be a crucial and important part of the community, And going back to what you were saying about society in general, there seems to be a subversion or an inversion of the natural energy where men, if you're not sort of like some big brooding ape who wants to be a mechanic, no disrespect to mechanics, but where do I fit in life if I'm not this alpha male, if I'm not this big kind of... And what I've found is a lot of guys that I meet are actually more sensitive than the women I meet. Women are tough. I was there for the birth of all 4 of my kids. I couldn't fucking do it. You couldn't do it. And any man worth his salt would be honest enough to say, yep, sorry, I can't do that. That woman is tougher than I am. Her pain threshold is much higher. And the more I live, the more I see women are tough and men are more sensitive. But we're brought up with this idea that men are tough and women are the sensitive ones. It's just that women are allowed to express their emotions. If a woman cries, a man wants to put his arm around her. But if a man cries, everyone runs away.
It's true, though. But I see that, it definitely, which is great. There's a more shift that men are becoming a bit more emotionally connected to themselves.
But it's gone too far the other way. You've got men wearing women's clothes. You've got this image in society of men being soft, being weak, being soppy, this almost drive for either transhumanism or genderlessness. And you're wondering, what's going, where's the natural male energy gone then?
That's extremes. Again, one extreme or the other for everything. That's why you have to bring it back in somehow. And again, that comes back to being authentic, being yourself. And that's it, just be yourself, So speaking of monks, I know you've got a date with the monks in East Clare coming up. So Carol, it's been a pleasure having you on. You shared some incredible information, your journey. Thanks for sharing again, like that stuff, part of your personal journey. And best of luck in all you do and Menscape and everything else. Like, you're doing amazing things that are having a positive impact. And I know you lead an authentic life, and you lead a life that you believe in, living life fully. And that's a message that we need to all keep putting out there. So keep up the good work, and I look forward to maybe even having you on again another time.
Thanks so much, Dave. I might just say, if anyone's watching that's interested in joining us, we don't actively market the group. So there's no advertising, there's no marketing. It's all through personal invitation. So if anyone would like to join us, they can email me on carljashley@gmail.com, or contact yourself or myself. And if anyone's interested in taking part in a forum where people are free to speak openly without judgment and take part. Thank you so much for having me on.
Pleasure. And definitely, guys, highly recommend you get on board. It's a wonderful group. So Carl, take care, have a great day, and enjoy the rest of it.
All the best, Dave. God bless.
All right, guys, so what do you think of that? I hope you really enjoyed it. Carl's a great guy. I only got to know Carl about a year ago, I think it is, maybe a little less. I was aware of Carl for a number of years, but we connected and had a great conversation. I remember we jumped on the call for just 5 minutes, ended up being on for, I think it was about an hour and 50 minutes or something. Talk about all kinds of stuff. Really good guy, authentic, as I'm sure came across. He's been through his own journey in life, but he's grown from it and learned from it, and he's become a better person from it. And he's very much aware of that we should be ever evolving. And he's become, like, again, myself and other people, become more and more aware and open with emotions, being connected with ourselves and our own emotions, communicating better, understanding the importance of it. And that's the thing that I want to stress to you, and always stress to you, Men Aloud. You have to get better and better at communicating your emotions, because there's nothing worse than keeping it in here. It's like a poison within you. You have to stop keeping things stuck inside you. So that's it for this week's edition of Men Aloud. As always, any questions, feedback, comments, opinions, stories, anything all you want to share with us, just contact the station or Media TV or contact myself directly. I'm here to help you in any way I possibly can. Any suggestions for future episodes, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, or you know someone who'd be a great guest, anything to do with mental health, anything to do with men's issues, we'd love to have them on board, even if it's anonymously sharing people's stories, whatever way works. The main thing is that Men Aloud has a positive impact on other people. So that's this week's episode. Take care. Looking forward to your feedback. Have a good one.